are on page 95, and we're on point 12 of the Treasure Tower chapter of the Record of the Orally Transmitted Teachings by Nichiren, noted by, transcribed by Nico. Okay, but before I do that, I wanted to very quickly say something to a good friend of mine, Frank. Frank, the deal was that my problem was that as a white boy, I didn't know anything about the Romantic languages at all. I was, I speak English. I still don't speak the local language where I live because I really, that's how bad my attitude is about learning language. But at any rate, the bottom line was that as I was educated back in the U.S., in the Midwest, and don't forget I'm 71 years old, it's going to be 72 in another couple months, so that was a long time ago. And when we discussed vocabulary, okay, we were never taught about beat counts because they don't exist in English or German, okay? And your advantage, all the Romantic languages have them, and the Sanskrit and Hindi have them. By the way, again, as you mentioned, there's no such thing as a native Sanskrit speaker. It's not. It's a classical language. It's not really used in conversation, or there's nobody using Sanskrit. There's only people interpreting Sanskrit. So first of all, rule number one I learned was that, again, as I was reading long vowel, I was thinking about them and in regard to how I understand them. And it was never an understanding of involving beats because none of the languages that I studied ever involved beats. It turns out that your feeling, first of all, what you described to me is basically just Romaji, okay, to me. And, I've been to Japan innumerable times, well over 20, 25, maybe even 30. All my kids speak Japanese, so I know Romaji, not a problem at all. I thought that there was something that was going on because they started putting those diacritical marks in the Sanskrit, okay? And so the bottom line is that that's nothing, those diacritical marks aren't indicating a long vowel as I was raised to understand a long vowel. They're supposed to be held a second beat. They're supposed to be given a longer emphasis in pronunciation, okay? So I've got to unscrew my head with the way I retranslated all of the things that are, like you said, if you go back, maybe, I don't know how long ago, it's been 2 or 3 years that I've been misunderstanding this issue of long and short vowels. Because I see long and short vowels, I think of, the brevet or whatever is the little U kind of thing that's, a short sound, and a macron is a long sound. So the bottom line, I learned all about the history of language. I learned about all kinds of stuff. By the way, there's no association between Japanese and Sanskrit. There's no association between Chinese and Sanskrit. That whole thing developed separately. The commonality is an ancient language from 4500 BCE to around 2500 BCE called the Proto-Indo-European, PIE, language that was utilized and is the base source for most of the languages that are the Romantic languages, because Latin is the basis of Rome, and the way the Romans conquered everything, and so everything was based on Latin. Everything had a twist like you're talking about. Never have been, when you talk about the Greek, I actually looked that up to see. He's saying he thinks he's got a knack for it because he understands. How could that be all the way from India? And then I learned so much by checking out what you instigated that I'm very grateful. So it's not an issue. I don't feel corrected or anything like that. It's point 12 on page 95, and we're continuing, as I said, with chapter 11, Treasure Tower. Okay, so let me go on with point 12. On the words, as though a great wind were tossing the branches of small trees in the passage, I have employed transcendental powers in moving immeasurable multitudes, causing lands to be clean and pure, leading to each of these Buddhas. Now, don't forget, in the Lotus Sutra, he's done all of this stuff. He's brought a bunch of people from outer space, from the 10 directions, all the Buddhas, yada, yada, yada. He's purified all of those lands, he said he did, okay, causing lands to be clean and pure, leading each of these Buddhas to the foot of a jeweled tree, where they are in this ceremony in the air, adorned as lotus blossoms adorn a clear pond. Beneath these jeweled trees are lion seats, and the Buddhas seat themselves on them, adorning them with their brilliance like a huge torch burning in the darkness of the night. A wonderful incense exudes from their bodies, pervading the lands in the 10 directions. Living beings are wrapped in the aroma, unable to restrain their joy, as though a great wind were tossing the branches of small trees. Now, the Daishonin goes right into this, is not long. The record of the orally transmitted teachings says, in this verse section, the 3 similes, adorned as lotus blossoms adorn a clear pond, as though a great wind were tossing the branches of small trees, and the third is like a huge burning torch in the darkness of the night. These represent the 3 bodies of the Buddha, which we know are the Dharma, the reward, and the manifested. Pardon me, down here it says in reverse order, manifested body, and then the reward body and the Dharma body, respectively. Among these 3 similes, that which speaks of a great wind stands for the 5 characters of the Daimoku. So he's qualifying. You know, you can read it in here talking about, you know, a ceremony in the air element. But in reality, he's saying in the latter day of the law, the great wind always stands for the Daimoku, Myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. The words tossing the branches of small trees refer to the refutation of the lesser or expedient means teachings. Now when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, they are like the blowing of a great wind. And we already used that analogy once. We're big. We're much bigger than anything else. No other teaching that precedes the lotus and all of the things that I'm reading you now in the Daishonin's interpretation in his mind comes even close to what he's now trying to convey to everyone about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay, so then going on to point 13 in the middle of page 96, on the passage, for the sake of the Buddha way in innumerable lands, from the beginning until now, I have widely preached many sutras, and among them this sutra is foremost. This Lotus Sutra is foremost. If one can uphold this sutra, then one will be upholding the Buddha's body. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, to uphold the Lotus Sutra is to uphold belief in the fact that our bodies are the Buddha's body. And the Buddha's body would be the same, the 3 bodies are the Buddha's body. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says to uphold the Lotus Sutra is to uphold belief in the fact that our bodies are the Buddha's body. The word soku, or then, which also means identical, we all know that by now, soku. We're identical with the Buddhas. We are Buddhas. Indicates that living beings and the Buddha are not 2 different things. The first uphold in the phrase of if one can uphold this sutra stands for ordinary mortals. The entity to be upheld is the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo. We speak of this as upholding the Buddha's body because each and every word of the Lotus Sutra is a golden colored body of the Buddha. To uphold the body of the Buddha means to uphold the belief. Okay, so he's saying basically to uphold the Buddha's body means to completely buy into what I'm about to say to you. To uphold the body of the Buddha means to uphold the belief that outside of our own bodies, there is no Buddha. That is, the ordinary mortal of Risoku, or the stage of being a Buddha in theory, is not different from the Buddha of Kukyo Soku, or the stage of ultimate enlightenment. The word soku, identical, indicates the fact that the first soku and that of risoku and the last soku, that of kukyo soku, are no different from one another. Point 14, on the words, this sutra is hard to uphold. In the passage, this sutra is hard to uphold. If one can uphold it for even a short while, I will surely rejoice, and so will all the other Buddhas. A person who can do this wins the admiration of the Buddhas. This is what it means by, this is what is meant by valor. This is what is meant by diligence. This is what is called observing the precepts and practicing dutta. This one way will quickly attain, dutta. This way one will quickly attain the unsurpassed Buddha way. And if in future existences one can read and uphold this sutra, he will be a true son of the Buddha, dwelling in a land spotless and good. And so the record of the orally transmitted teaching says on page 97 in the middle, the record of the orally transmitted teaching says, one who upholds the Lotus Sutra should uphold it with the understanding that one will encounter difficulties. And the attainment of Buddhahood referred to in the words, this way one will quickly attain the unsurpassed Buddha way. This is now what Nichiren and his followers attain when they chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. So the same attainment, okay, by chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. And also, though, as this way one will quickly attain the unsurpassed Buddha way. And if in future existences one can read and uphold this sutra, he will be a true son of the Buddha, dwelling in a land spotless and good. Why? Because he will be preaching the Lotus Sutra. He will be preaching the true teaching. Obviously, it has to be in accord with the age, but the bottom line is that he will already be manifested in a Buddha land, because the Buddha land is a reflection of you. It's not a special place. All right, continuing on point 15, on the words, I will surely rejoice, and so will all the other Buddhas. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the word I refers to the mind king, the core of the mind, which would be the reward body. The words, the other Buddhas, refers to the various functions of the mind. When one upholds the Lotus Sutra, both the mind and its various functions rejoice simultaneously. Again, we may say that the word I refers to ordinary mortals, and that the words the other Buddhas refers to the Buddhas of the three existences. Now Nichiren and his followers rejoice as they chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. And this is what the passage is referring to. Point 16, getting close to 20. Point 16, on the words, and if in future existences one can read and uphold this sutra. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says this refers to the practice of reading, reciting, and accepting, upholding, which make up 2 of the 5 practices. Okay, so reading, reciting, we do when we chant Daimoku. Okay, and accepting, upholding is something that only comes from a conviction that's within our own life. It's not an activity. Okay, which make up the 2 of the 5 practices. Now Nichiren and his followers in chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo are carrying out the practice of reading, and in upholding this sutra, they are carrying out the practice of upholding. The words this sutra refer to the 5 characters of the Daimoku. Again, this sutra is Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, okay? Point 617, everything he's talking about is Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. He's not talking about the Lotus Sutra even when he uses it as a reference. All right. Point 17, on the words, he will be a true son of the Buddha. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the votaries of the Lotus Sutra are the true sons of Shakyamuni, the Dharma king. And for that reason, they are able to succeed him and become Dharma kings themselves. You should carefully consider these words. He will be a true son of the Buddha. In conjunction with the passage that says, but now this threefold world is all my domain, and the living beings in it are all my children, chapter 3, simile and parable. Now Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo are children of Shakyamuni, the Dharma king. They all then, therefore, will be able to manifest the same state. They're going to grow up to be Dharma kings. Growing up is going through the five stages of getting to the sixth stage. Okay, the Dharma king is the sixth stage. Okay, sixth stage is enlightenment. All right, point 15. Pardon me, that was point 17. Going on to point 18 at the bottom of page 98. Point 18 on the words, if after the Buddha is passed into extinction, one can understand the meaning of this sutra, he will be the eyes of the world, okay? Because he will be an enlightened entity that can lead others into the light as well. That's why he will be the eyes of the world, because there will many people that don't see through the eyes of the Buddha. They'll be blind to that reality. So for heavenly and he will be the eyes of the world for heavenly and human beings. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, the Daishonin says, the world refers to the country of Japan. The eyes refers to the Buddha wisdom. The Lotus Sutra, and that's what I just said, he will be the eyes of the world. He'll be the Buddha wisdom source of the world. Anybody that can do this, not just one person, okay? The word country refers to the country of Japan. The eyes refers to the world, to the Buddha wisdom. The Lotus Sutra acts as the eyes of the world for heavenly and human beings. Eyes here refers to Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So it's Buddha eyes, right? It's how we perceive things, knowing the truth of the law. Okay? It is the eyes of the world, and all of this spooky gobbledygook is no longer, it's been outed. It's not, it's not what it appeared to be if you just looked at it literally. Okay? Eyes here refer to Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. It is the eyes of the world for heavenly human beings. Again, we may say that the eyes referred to here are the eyes of the various Buddhas. It is the Zen, Nimbutsu, and True Word followers and their like who gouge out these eyes of the Buddha, causing the eyes to be closed. But Nichiren and his followers who now chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, are we not the eyes of the world for heavenly and human beings? And I have a big yes, of course we are. This is exactly how the teaching reads. That's exactly what we would be if the teaching is correct, right? It doesn't take rocket science to understand the answer is yes. Point 19, on the words, if in that fearful age one can preach this sutra for even a moment, he will deserve to receive alms from all heavenly and human beings. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says you should think about the one word can. The word preach means to preach Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Now Nichiren and his followers are the votaries who can preach this sutra for even a moment. 20.20 on the words, this sutra is hard to uphold, the last point of the 20 points of the 11th chapter. Point 20 on the words, this sutra is hard to uphold. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says all three types of learning are compressed into this passage of the sutra. Okay, so this sutra is hard to uphold pertains to all three types of learning. In his questions and answers on regulation for students of the Tendai school, Dengyo states, the space-like immovable precepts, the space-like immovable meditation, and the space-like immovable wisdom. These three are all together are transmitted under the name the Wonderful Law. Precepts pertain to the element of the body. Meditation pertains to the element of the mind. Wisdom pertains to the actions of the two elements of body and mind. And the words all together in the statement above refer to the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, which is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So he's just qualifying again. Actually, Ichinen Sanzen is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Transmitted indicates that it is transmitted to the 10,000 years of the latter day of the law. That this is a teaching for the age. It's not something that is in refutation of the teaching that preceded it. It's not to refute it. It's to say we're in a different age and this is now the way things are. Now Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, putting into practice the doctrine of the provisional teachings. The Now, Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, putting into practice the doctrine that the provisional teachings do not lead to the attainment of the way, but that the Lotus Sutra represents the real truth, honestly discarding expedient means. And this corresponds to the precepts. The precepts are intended to prevent errors and put an end to evil. The votary who upholds the principle of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is certainly a person who assuredly and without doubt will attain the Buddha way. From chapter 21, Supernatural Powers. And this certainly corresponds to meditation. The wisdom of the Buddhas of the three existence of the past, present, and future is embraced and upheld in each single recitation of the Daimoku, and this corresponds to wisdom. These three types of learning correspond to skin, flesh, and bones, to the three bodies of a Buddha, to the three truths, to the three rules of preaching, and to three kinds of wisdom. All right? And if I have a second longer, I want to go back real quick, and I just want to go here in from the sutra. He says the record, all three of these, he quotes Dengyo. What Dengyo is talking about, the space-like immovable precepts, the space-like immovable meditation, and the space-like immovable wisdom. All these three together are transmitted under the name Wonderful Law. So what does Nam-myoho Renge-kyo equal? It equals eternal, that's space-like, okay? There's no end. Eternal precepts, which we always will have to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. That will always be part of the deal. That's how we awaken the people that aren't awakened. We can't escape that. We're glad to do that part. Okay, the space-like immovable meditation, which again is our chanting of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, okay, and the space-like immovable wisdom is the reward body that we become, that becomes active, that we were originally endowed with, the wisdom to perceive the Dharma realm as all connected, and there is no separation with anything. All right, that's not your brain. That's the Buddha mind. Okay, so I wanted to make that clear. We've now then gotten to page 100 already, and the next time we get together, we'll start on chapter 12, Devadatta, 8 important points. I think I said in one of the last videos that Devadatta chapter was the 8th chapter. I was obviously mistaken. It's happening now here. Chapter 12, Devadatta, 8 important points on page 100. Next time we get together. Thank you so much.